In this week's episode, we talked to Nancy Duitch, CEO and founder of Sera Labs. Nancy has decades of marketing and advertising experience, and we talk about the differences between being a marketer and a business owner, hiring for your weaknesses. We talk about Nancy's nonprofit, raising awareness for heart disease. Let's jump right into this week's episode of the LA Business Podcast. Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, your destination to hear stories of how businesses grow and scale. I'm Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media and the host of this podcast. Now, let's jump right into this week's interview. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is Nancy Duitch, CEO and founder of Sera Labs, and Sera Labs is a wellness and beauty company. Nancy, you've been in the business and you built a successful company. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Sera Labs and how you got into all this
Great.
craziness.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. Really appreciate it. I started this company 3 years ago, and we started out with beauty, with some beauty products, and we really started the company as a CBD brand. And I recognized early on that CBD is just really an ingredient similar to all the other active ingredients I have in our products. And I really started to really expand out into other areas in the wellness and beauty area that we could really grow, because we can't advertise CBD products, but I can advertise non-CBD products. And because we are really at our core marketing and branding revenue generators, and accountability is really important to us, it was important that on the products that we, all of our products, we own everything, that we really can advertise them and really brand the products. Because without creating a brand on the consumer product side, you don't have sales, and you can't create what your mission is supposed to be, and you can't really create something that people are going to remember and that people are going to go out and purchase and know that they can trust you with.
How do you build so 3-year-old company, how do you build a brand in that short of a time?
Wow, it's very difficult to build a brand in 3 years. But it really takes an omni-channel approach. So how do you build a brand? You've got to have a great vision of where you want your brand to be within 2, 3, 5-year period of time. You then have to start understanding who your customer is, what your objectives are, what are you trying to sell, and how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else. Once you understand that, you can then start creating assets that really speak to your brand and to your vision. And once that happens and you start testing, and it's always about testing to see what your customer likes. I was telling somebody today, my mother was a very smart woman, and she once said to me, "Nancy, you are not your customer. And remember that. And always remember that your customer want different things than you do. So if you love something, it may not work. And
Right.
Don't be disappointed. So always make sure you think of the customer." And she told me this years and years ago. And wow, it's like so amazing how today, if you are not customer brand focused, you lose. So how do you win? From my perspective, you've really got to have an ecosystem. And the ecosystem really consists of, now you can't create a brand just by going on one platform. You have to be on all platforms, and it takes a lot of money. It really does. And if you don't have the financing to do it, right, it takes a long time. So I was very fortunate that I come from the retail wholesale side of the business and then the infomercial side of the business, and I got into that at a very early in the game, in the early 90s. It's one of the great things about being old, Robert. You've been around a long time.
Yeah, when we were talking prior to the recording, it's very clear that you're a marketer, you're a brand person. Tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to the point where you created Sera Labs.
Okay, well, thank you. And yes, I started out in health, wellness, and beauty. I've always done health, wellness, and beauty. I had a few, we all evolve at different times in our life, and I took a few. I ended up doing a lot of fitness products. What I learned is that once I got into the infomercial business, my first project was the ab rollers, and so I got very lucky that my first project was a few $100 million, product that I was able to get to. Yeah, the ab
The
rollers.
ab roller.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and I'll never forget the owner of the company came to me and he said, "Nancy," he said, um, "do you think you can sell 42,000 of these?" And I said, I don't know why. And he goes, "Well, I just spent a lot of money to get the rights to these products, and we're going to market, brand, and these and sell to retail." And I was in charge of the retail side of the business, and I said to him, I said, "Well, I don't know. It looks like an okay product, but I don't know if people are going to like it or not. Let's see." So we started running the advertising, and we already knew that there was other people that were going to knock us off, and so we got the rights to those because we owned the patents on. We didn't own them, but the inventors owned the patents, and we had the exclusive licensing rights. And I will never forget that. $334 million later in the first year, that I said, I think I sold more than 42,000
That's
units.
amazing.
And,
That's
and,
amazing.
and the reason we were able to do it, Robert, and here's the key, is because everybody always remembers the movie, or maybe it's just people in my age, my generation, the Field of Dreams, that if you build it, they will come. No, they won't, not unless they know you're there. And that was the beauty of direct to consumer advertising. And that's really where it started. And well, really started at the Book of the Month clubs and started on newspaper ads, but that's really where it got a big boost. And thank goodness that the internet came around and really solidified and legitimized the D2C model.
So what's different to you about being a marketer versus being a business owner? And this is I believe this is not the first time. This is not your first business, right? You've had uh, vision works, branding, and a number of things. So tell us about the difference between a marketer and a business owner.
Well, I think that the difference between a marketer and a business person, if you want your business, if you want to make money and you want to make sales, you better be a business person as well as a marketer. So it's surrounding yourself with the right team of analysts, because I'm a big believer that sales and marketing lead the team. They're the ones who lead everything, but you've got to make sure that it fits into a financial model that you can make money on. And if you can't make money, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. So I believe it's making sure that you are not the only person that can do anything, that you've got to have a team that can do other things. So, for example, I hire to my weaknesses. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I tell everybody I can do 3 or 4 things really well, and everything else my team does. So I always have a strong finance team. I always have a strong operations group and good project managers to make sure that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, good legal, making sure that you have the right team in place that you can trust, and that will follow your vision is always important. So whether you're a marketer of consumer product goods, whether you are the visionary, say like a Steve Jobs, who took regular ordinary products and enhanced them and made them better, or whether you are a financial services or an accountant, you still have to learn how to market yourself and sell. But you also have to know that you got to make payroll and you got to pay the rent. And so you've got to be a business person and make sure that you've got it all together. And so I think there's a fine line, but knowing what you're good at is the most important, and what you're not good at.
Yeah, definitely a learning curve. When was the first, like, which company was it where you became first time business owner?
I've owned my own businesses for a really long time.
Got
And
it.
I started out when I was very young and I started and I was a sales rep, right? And so it was my own business, right? I took other people's products, I sold them to retailers. I had a great business, and and I'll never forget. I brought in a young guy at the time who became my partner in that business, and I'll never forget John coming into the office, and he goes, "Look at what I just bought to make our business look good." And this was back in the early '80s, and it was a computer. And he says, "We're going to put all our orders on here, and this is where we're going to do all the accounting." And it was really funny. Like when you think back, it was this humongous computer.
Right, like that's gonna solve everything. It's like that one scene in Mad Men where the guys who actually have to use it are just standing in the room like, I don't know what to do, but this looks interesting.
Yeah, exactly. But if but like with anything, if you can really figure out what the right messaging is for what you're marketing, and you have the right people to make sure that the dollars go into the bank account. And in today's world, you need good systems. You need a good CRM. You need fantastic, in my business, inventory systems, and you need to have people who understand what timelines are. And so I think that probably I'm a really good business person and marketer, but I'm not a very good creative person at all.
So it's really interesting how I imagine process is also a big part of the success you're having with Sera Labs, right?
Oh, 100%. There's processes are very, very important. And the other thing that everybody has to remember is that everything has to be, I know I'm going to use an old-fashioned word, written down, but typed on your computer. And we all have to follow protocol. So, for example, every day for an hour, my whole marketing and branding team and sales team, and because sales, people selling to the retailers are just as important in the creative side, because they know what a CVS or a Walmart is looking for as well. So we also have to take a look at price points. What are the price points we're selling? But it's really knowing your audience. Whoever your audience is really understanding them. And we talk for an hour, and we're on Zoom. We have 3 people on the East Coast. Everybody else is in Los Angeles. And every day we discuss for almost an hour, most days, every single aspect about what we're going to do, and what content needs to be written, and how the content needs to be, displayed, and what ads that we're running, and how are we going to drive the business and drive sell-through. So if you think you're a good marketer, you need to be a good business person as well as a marketer, no matter what you're good at doing. And the same thing for the finance. If you're a finance person and you're the CEO, you need to make sure you've got the people around you that can do the creatives and the marketing.
Absolutely. And what in 2021, what are the key levers that are driving Sera Labs?
The key levers in 2021, we were acquired in 2020 by Cure Pharmaceutical. I love that they were a technology delivery platform, a pharmaceutical company, not they weren't manufacturing drugs. And I loved their technology, and I love the fact that they had 17 patents on their products. And what I really loved about them was that I could take this novel product, and this is what makes me a good marketer. I could take their novel product that they create as an oral film strip, and has a ton of science behind it. And they had created one for sleep, and in the wellness category. They're also doing it for drug delivery, but one for sleep, one for energy, one for immune D3, and one for recovery, and there's numerous other ones. And I love the fact that you can put this on your tongue, because I hate taking pills, and it instantly activates on your tongue so you can swallow easily. Those are also another big deal, is making sure you have the right claims, and that you can substantiate the claims that you're making, and because you can get in a lot of trouble if you're not a good business person.
Sure.
You just have to know, especially in advertising, right, Robert?
Of course. Of course.
So I love this idea, and we created a brand, and we thought it would be a little heavier educational lift, but what we realized was that by coming up with the name NutriStrips and getting that name trademarked, which we couldn't believe. And then taking the sleep product because it was low hanging fruit, and it's recognizing what is the easiest thing to get started on. And we created a TV commercial, and we use it on digital as well as TV. But the TV is still a big driver. So, and listen, and you have a media agency, so you know this. People think TV is dead. It is not.
It's a
And
big business.
yeah, and by the way, when you advertise a product that helps people and it's got 5 active ingredients in it, right? Because they can put a lot of ingredients on this small strip, and you can't sleep at night and you've tried everything and nothing works, and you see a commercial that says this product will help you sleep, and it's compelling and it's got a great message and it has a new delivery system on it. When do you think people are watching these products that can't sleep? In the middle of the night.
So it's contextually relevant.
Exactly, exactly. And what we find is that what it does is it increases our Amazon sales, and 74% of our customers will go on to our website and buy the product directly from our website.
So you're seeing a connection between television, media delivery, and online searches, visits to
Oh my
Amazon
God,
site.
it's unbelievable. And then you've got to make sure you've got the retargeting. You have to make sure that you have this omni-channel approach. And then once you have your messaging down pat, what are some new areas you can go into? And then you actually start to expand. So it's similar to TV media buying, which you're familiar with, that you start with a core group and then you kind of weed out, whatever works or doesn't work, right? And then whatever works, you keep, and whatever doesn't work, you don't. And it's the same thing on digital too. So the methodologies are pretty much the same. So that's kind of NutriStrips. And what we love about that is that we are creating a brand. We just started, marketing this in 2021, and based upon our reoccurring revenue model that we have, it appears that it's going to be a big winner for us. So we're very excited about it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and the next thing that happened is that in December of 2020, we signed a deal with Nicole Kidman, who's our company global brand ambassador for our topical products, and she's also a strategic partner with the company. And Nicole is an amazing human being. I love this woman. She's just as authentic as she comes across. And we have not only have our CBD beauty line, seratopical.com, but that's SERA topical.com. And we put that on everything. But we, in the spring, we decided that we really need to create a brand, a skincare brand that we can advertise. So we created Sera Topical Revolution, which is a clean, natural, plant-based product line. We also had Cure Pharmaceutical with one of their emulsion experts create a proprietary peptide delivery system that is fantastic, because most natural products use alcohol to deliver the ingredients to your skin, and our product has our P3P complex in it to deliver it to the skin. We have no alcohol. And
Nice.
Nicole, and we're very excited because this we can carry on and have a national campaign in an omni-channel effect. So we're really focused on those two categories for creating the brand. And you'll notice that we kept the name Sera Topical. So, and we see a lot of crossover purchasing. So we see people go to the Sera Topical CBD site, and we see people go to the Sera Topical Revolution, and they'll buy 2 or 3 items from one or 2 or 3 from the other. So that's been for me, that's been a big eye opener to see the cross marketing happen.
Sure. So, which channel is not most important, but which channel would you say is top of mind, the most interesting for you? Is it retail? Is it online? Where are you focusing a lot of your energy?
I would say that there is no one channel that is the most interesting. I never go to retail unless unless we have enough advertising to support it. So we don't want our products to sit at retail, because guess what happens when they sit at retail? They come back to you.
Sure.
So we make sure that we create the brand first, and when you're spending a good amount of money and you have an ROI, you can actually increase your spend depending on what your ROI is, right? And how good your ROI is. So I think that for me, I just love the omni-channel. The most interesting for me is having a successful product on Amazon. I love that. I think that's really awesome. And I love the fact that we can keep our prices a little bit, at a better price that we love. Retail is where we go after we have, really created the brand, and after we have, really, done what we can on the D2C side in all the channels, right? But what I love is that all these years later, TV is still working, and we have graphs that we do that show when we run our TV ads, our Amazon sales increase. I mean, it's really interesting. With every airing, you see everything, whether it be the website, the funnel, whether it be Amazon, or whether it be Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising or just plain retargeting. I mean, there's a direct correlation to people seeing things. Remember, this. You have to see something 9 times before you take an action today.
And people are bombarded with so many messages that it's hard to break through. And you've got to keep on reminding people that they were at one point interested in this product or services. It's so important. So let's switch gears a little bit. You started your own nonprofit organization. Tell us a little bit about that and why you started that and what it's called.
It's called the CARE Foundation, Cardiac Arrhythmia Research and Education Foundation. My mother and I and my husband started this because years ago, I had a brother who, at the age of 20, he was captain of the lacrosse team at University of Connecticut, and he was camping in the Grand Tetons, and he went to sleep. He was a phenomenal athlete, and he went to sleep one night and never woke up. This was in 1979, and nobody knew what happened to him. My uncle was one of the big guys at OSHA at the time, and they shut down the area at Jenny's Lake to see if there were poisons. Nobody could figure it out. And 2 years later, my younger sister, was walking across her dormitory floor in University of Tampa, and she was also a great, great athlete. And she had cardiac arrest. And she was in a coma for 6 weeks. And she actually, my parents were able to get her back to, I grew up in Philadelphia, got her back to a rehab facility in Philadelphia when she woke up from her coma. And it's not like in the movies, you don't just wake up. And it took 6 years for her to really learn how to read and write and take care of herself again. And she met a nice young man, and she got married, and she had a baby. And 5 months later, she went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. And what we found out is that in our family, we have a genetic condition called long QT syndrome. And it's the interval between the Q and the T waves of your heart. And it gets out of sync and causes something called torsade de poids. And your heart rate goes up to like 300 beats a minute. And it's very difficult to resuscitate somebody. Unfortunately for my sister, she died in her sleep. So did my brother, and there was nobody to resuscitate her. And her son inherited it. We've got 26 members in our family. We eventually found out it was my mother's maternal line. And we decided that we wanted to do something. I can make some lemonade out of lemons, and we didn't want my siblings' lives to go in vain. So we created this charity, and we raised a lot of money. And I was very fortunate that we knew in LA a lot of celebrities, and they got involved, and the word went out, and they started putting fictionalized stories about people with our disease in all the medical shows, and at the time. And it was really interesting because it was considered a very rare disorder at the time, but it's no longer considered that. And we educated the public and all the medical community that when your child faints, don't take it lightly. Make sure you take them to the doctor and make sure they get EKGs and Holter monitors as well. Don't let them tell you, because I used to faint when I was younger, and they would say she's just a drama queen. And that part was true too. I was a drama queen. But but it was really it changed my whole life and my whole outlook on life. And we thought, if we could help a lot of people, this would be well worth it. And in the meantime, over the years, the genes have been really cloned, and they're owned now by and there's multiple genes that cause this to happen, owned by some biotech companies. But my mother was responsible for getting defibrillators put on most of the airlines in the country, and
Mm.
she was also responsible in the state of California for getting the Anti-Genetic Discrimination Act passed, so that no child born with a genetic disorder would be discriminated against in the future.
Wow.
So
You're doing so much good in so many different ways.
yeah, thank you. You really try. I think you've got to have good values to be successful in business today too. I think the day of looking just at the dollar instead of looking how you're doing things is over. I think you've got to look at how you're doing it, make sure that customers come first, and make sure that your values are really, are weaved throughout the organization.
How do you generate awareness for care?
I haven't been involved in it for a while. I was giving money, but once the biotech companies kind of took over getting the genes and doing the educational part themselves, because it's a money making position. It's money making for them, and they get all the insurance companies pay for the testing now. It's and the biotech world's a little bit different. They've really mostly taken over, and my mother passed away, and like 12 years ago, and so there really isn't an active charity since the biotech world came on and kind of
Got it.
took over.
What is the next 6 months of 2020 and I'm sorry, 2021 and into 2022? What are the key initiatives you're looking at for Sera Labs? Is it the Nicole Kidman partnership?
Our goal is over the next 6 months to a year to build up the Ceratopical Revolution line, to build up the NutriStrip line, to create brand awareness for both of these as well as revenues, and to really become a real player in the United States here and globally too. So we are actually in the process of negotiating with different countries to take our products to those countries as well. So going global is a big initiative for us.
Amazing. Nancy Duitch, CEO and founder of Sera Labs. Thank you so much for being with us today. Before we go, though, sorry, tell us all the ways that people can find Sera Labs and you and reach out.
Okay, great. The best way to find us is you go to Sera, Sera labshealth.com. That's SERA health, HEALTH.com. And you'll see all the products are on that site. There's a button that says shop, and you can go take a look and peruse the site. That's the best way to find us. Or you can go to Ceratopical, SERAtopical.com, for just for the beauty sites, and then NutriStrips, NUTRI strips.com. And so that's
Wow.
the best way to reach me. And also, if anybody is interested in talking to me, I'm happy through LinkedIn to speak with anybody who has questions.
Nancy Deutsch, CEO and founder of Sera Labs. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the LA Business Podcast. If you like what we're doing on this podcast, please consider subscribing on Apple or Google Play, leaving a 5-star review, and sharing with your friends. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for a guest you'd like to hear on this podcast, please email me, robert@brillmedia.co. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.